Riku had a hard childhood. After years of abuse from his father, that same man took his own life. Yakuza coming to collect the body taught Riku how to punch, and Riku would later use that punch to kill his mother's boyfriend in an act of self-defense. This is a story of many such tragedies, and Riku's decision to use his fist at the cost of many more. This is Riku Dao by Matsubara Toshimitsu. Good evening. Hope you're having a good day and a good night. I'm about to leave for Colorado to film some stuff out there. As you can see, I'm trying to grow some facial hair, so if it looks like I'm kind of splotchy, I'm not just being lazy. This is purposeful. I'm eating some leftover pie from Thanksgiving. Got some water in an old plastic cup. I've got TAS Mangosteen juice drink. If it'll focus. Tastes. Oh, it's clear. Maybe a little half and half action. Riku Dao. I just plowed through this one. My only real experience before this with boxing manga or anime was Megalobox, which came out a couple of years ago in 2018. I loved the music, art, characters, all the world in that show. It was very lovable and enjoyable. It was pretty short. That was, of course, based on the 70s manga Ashita no Jo, which I have not read. I have read probably 100 chapters of less of Hajime no Ippo also. At the time, it didn't really interest me, but I've heard nothing but good things, so I may come back to that. Riku Dao captured me online when I saw some volume covers a little while back. The bruised white-haired boy with the hair going all over the place. I didn't really expect a straightforward boxing manga, or that it would be so fucking sad. It does get better, it does look up eventually, but the beginning is really dark, and it just builds on and on for a long time. The scans are kind of muddy, the art is really intricate and beautiful, it evokes a really romantic and tragic atmosphere in some scenes. The most amazing thing about it are these double-page spreads. This one here is my favorite, with Riku looking back over the ring after his match, absolutely exhausted, happy and at peace with his peers in this place he belongs in, finally feels comfortable in. If you've ever played an indoor stadium sport, or any team sport like this, it evokes that sense of having just finished a match and hanging out, looking at the other players before you go and watching from a distance, kind of exhausted but just enjoying the atmosphere. It's really nostalgic and beautiful. As always, I'll do my best to avoid spoilers here while covering the general themes and structure, but I gotta emphasize in advance to please read it as well, or at least skim through it to get an idea of the art, because I clearly can't do that justice by just showing you a few panels here and talking about it quickly. So, following the early tragedies in his life, he's gifted boxing gloves by the Yakuza he meets in the beginning. His first present, which as a boy he wears around his neck because he's so happy to have it, and as a young adult he practices with them every day. Eventually he joins a small gym in the inner city, where the Yakuza who taught him to punch trained when he was a boy. Riku's only real goal in the beginning is to get the same belt the man who gave him the gloves once earned, which is easier said than done. The tragic thing is, the belt he wants isn't that valuable, but it is extremely hard to get. It doesn't really bring you a lot of money or fame, but it can only be fought for once you're at the top level. You can think of it as a kind of grad school degree, which is a really weird thing to shoot for in boxing, since every single level comes with a great physical risk. This actually does help him make a lot of friends though, since he's essentially saying, I don't want to be the Japanese champion, I don't want this money and fame to hold this title, because you have to give up that title to get this other title. What he wants is this one really specific high-level belt, and it's really respectable among his peers. It's really interesting to them. And Riku starts out very uninteresting. He's this sad character who's scorned by society for having killed someone in his youth, and that really haunts him. He's a product of his environment and just takes the abuse and kind of just rolls with the punches. But his childhood friends, his rivals, and his peers he soon comes to have, they all expect more of him, and they all push and shape him into a very realistic and full character. They give him goals, and they're just unrelenting friends, and they seek to break his shell and just push him out of that funk. Those people only really appear and come to him at the higher levels. The lower levels are full of people in debt, people trying to feed their family, or break the ranks to escape poverty like Riku when they don't have anything else. And he has to crush these people that have really high stakes and kind of hurt them until they're on the brink of death in some cases because they don't want to give up, to make them let go. To get to the level where it's just a sport and it's just fun, it takes a lot of sacrifice and a lot of people to step on. What I'm trying to say is, this manga has some of the best and most rewarding friendships of any story I've read, but that comes at the cost of some of the most bloody, real, and crushing fights I've read of any story too. It's totally worth your time, and it's worth the read if you can handle the brutal, early arcs. However, the manga has not been fully translated. It stops at chapter 96, which came out a couple months ago, but it officially ended last year at chapter 241, maybe the year before. I'm not getting a good timeline online, unfortunately. There's not a lot of information. The translators knew what they were doing, though. 96 is a satisfying and heartwarming conclusion to everything that's been built to that point. It's a really good ending, even if you don't read further than that. So don't be afraid to pick this one up. If you're like me and you do decide to catch up, and then go ahead and read the raws for the ending to see what it looks like visually, you can understand the conclusion pretty well without text. And it makes sense with where we were left off in the English translation, so it's all good. A couple of the people that really push Riku are one, his first rival, who's the son of his Yakuza sort of father figure's rival, and he's good enough to immediately go to the highest rank because he's the son of a famous boxer and he has the money and influence to go straight there. But seeing Riku, by chance, sort of pushes him to go and fight Riku, and Riku actually catapulting Riku towards the top, hurting this guy's reputation, letting people take notice of him, kind of getting him in. If this guy hadn't stopped and gone back to challenge Riku and really pushed him to be as good as the best, that may not have happened. And then once Riku's in, he starts making friends in that top level. One of the people that really pushes him is Mihara, and Mihara is a really goofy guy. He's one of the top level players, but he's not like the top level guy. He's kind of a scrappy guy still. He's not like a champion yet, so he has no like super heavy expectations on him, so he can still be a nice guy. And him just taking time to be friends with and, you know, give Riku this friendship is amazing. So we have his rival that kind of gives him that in. We have his peer who kind of gets him a friend group and allows him to do this as a sport and be at that top level and supports him. Then we have his childhood friend who supports him also, like socially, presses him to keep getting good grades and finish school, but then also starts to support him following that, which I can't really talk about too much without getting into spoilers. But he has these pillars that sort of build him up that only really appear after his own hard work. And the progression for him to get these pillars is very slow and very brutal and crushing, but it's very satisfying and it's a great story. That's all I had to say about Riku Dao. It's pretty short, it's just 94 chapters, but it's a very satisfying read. I enjoyed it a lot. If you have never read a boxing manga before like me, it's a great place to start. It's very emotionally impactful, and all the storylines are given a lot of time to breathe. With that said, let me know what you think. If you have any other sports or boxing manga you'd recommend, please let me know. If you're new to the channel or you haven't already, please consider subscribing. You can also follow us on Twitter or watch me on Twitch Monday and Thursday nights. If you're watching this as it comes out, I will be gone for the next week or so. With all that said, have a good night. Thanks for watching. Peace.